Chapter 8 Discordance. Hella felt Skature speed up while she silently clung onto his back. They streaked down the dark alleys of the outer ring towards South Nai Prefecture, the wind drying the patches of rain blood that stained both of their clothes. She fought to keep her eyes open, even against the wind of their speedy travel. But each time she closed them, the faces of those peacemen appeared. The ones who were going to kill her, those murderers who deserved everything they got. It was justice, she thought. If Skature hadn't done that, I'd be in bloody bits right now. There's no way around it. It was necessary. However, the logic of that thought competed with another vision she couldn't shake. Skature standing before her, red like a raging inferno, an enormous smile plastered across his face. A smile that was usually disarming, but at that moment there couldn't have been a more menacing gesture. He liked it. He enjoyed doing that, didn't he? Didn't he? She couldn't reconcile the necessity of the violence with the twisted pleasure on his face. It's because they're the enemy. This is just what actual battle looks like. It's not personal, she told herself. With that thought, a sudden flash of another memory from earlier that night came to her mind. A picture in slow motion of a tiny Rayan girl waving at her from a balcony as Hella rushed after Skature. Joy and wonder on her face like she'd seen a great hero. An unexpected sadness came over her. What if that was the daughter of the peaceman who begged for Skature's mercy? She choked back a lump in her throat. It was still sore from where the man held his blade against it. What does it even matter? There's a little girl somewhere who won't see her father ever again after tonight. Maybe many little girls. Don't cry for them. That's what Skature had told her when he dried her tears. They are as insects. Why can't I think of them as insects? Her mouth twisted as she wrestled with the thought. They think of me like that. Maybe even worse. This is just the world we live in. Get a grip, Hella. Her thoughts were cut short as Skature came to an abrupt stop. We're back, ha ha, he announced. Not bad time if I do say so myself, he bragged. Already was the only thing she could think to say. Time meant nothing to her since their lethal altercation. Yes, indeed, faster than a deer running downhill, he proclaimed. We've got one last thing to do, though, your favorite part, he told her. The jump. You know it. Hold on, my dear. We're about to touch the sky one last time tonight, or should I say this morning. We'll probably only beat the sun by a little bit, but a win's a win, am I right? She tightened her grip around his body as Skature squatted down. And they were off. Up with a velocity that didn't make sense. There it was again, that free sensation, rising away from the hate and the evil and the turmoil and the death. The death, all that death, so much death. She couldn't stop the tears. They flowed down her like raindrops against the speed of their lift. Keep going. Don't come down. I don't want to go back. Just let me live in the freedom of the sky. Her heart didn't want to believe what her head knew was coming next. They slowed, hovered for a moment that was in opposition to itself because of its perfect freedom and its inevitable fate. Then they fell. The weight of the world they were returning to claimed Hella's heart once more. I can't stop time. My fate is Grom's, not mine. Don't cry for them. Don't cry. Just don't. She forced down her pain, her doubt, her sadness. They landed with surprising accuracy right on the small portion of floor Skature had smashed in front of her sleep chamber the previous night. Before she could even straighten up from the landing, a small voice called, Hella, you're back! It was Senna. He rushed from the perch he was occupying, curled up against the wall behind Hella's bed. Senna's embrace almost bowled Hella over as she hopped off Skature's back. You were gone all night, Hella, he whimpered. I didn't know when you were coming back, and it just kept getting later. It was scary. I stayed up the whole time waiting for you. I thought the floors were going to turn on before you got back, but you just made it. You just made it. Senna rarely strung together more than a sentence or two, but Hella was happy to hear every word and grateful for the time they extended his embrace. Her little brother stopped his exuberant welcome and brought his right hand back from hugging his sister. Something was in it. He had picked it out of her hair by accident. What's this? He asked, his brow furrowed. He presented it to Hella. It was a tooth. They both looked at it, and then each other. Hella couldn't do it. She couldn't hold back everything she had just pushed down moments ago. She burst into tears again and pulled Senna back into her arms. Oh, Finn! She wailed. Senna just held his sister, For once, their newest callmate stayed silent. Minutes after their arrival, the sun began to crack over the walls of the call, and, in predictable fashion, the asperite floors lit up. "Time's up, little Hella," Skature said, breaking the silence. "Last night is over. Nothing happened. We had a restful sleep and are ready for another day of fantastic blessings. Dry your eyes, change your clothes, and let's meet God for the morning prayer." Nodding, Hella released Senna. Looking down, she saw bloodstains that had dried into an unnerving shade of black on her shirt. She took a deep breath to steady her nerves once more, wiping her eyes with the back of her sleeve and sniffing. "Let's get ready, Finn. Nothing happened last night," she repeated like an automaton. A grin re-emerged on Scatter's face. "Good girl." The 5 Theutons of Call 19 gathered in the common, as they always did. However, the only one with any spring in his step was their newest member. "A fine morning, wouldn't you agree, Godden?" Skature boomed. Godden hadn't forgotten their conversation from the day before. In fact, he was still reeling from the blow to his ego. "Good morning, Skature. I trust you slept well," Godden replied in a lackluster tone. "Oh, just the best sleep of my life, ha ha!" Godden frowned as Skature shot Hella a wink and a smile. "Well, I'm glad to hear that. Since you mentioned how you enjoyed our morning prayer yesterday, how about you recite it for us this morning?" "Why, Godden, I would be properly honored to." The callmates all held each other's shoulders as Skature cleared his throat. "Oh, blessed Grom, matron." All of a sudden, the floors turned on, compelling them to move to their morning attention spots. A moment later, a loud voice emanated from above the call doors as if projected through some amplifying device. "Attention, all condemned! Your call is under quarantine until further notice. Remain orderly and await direction." At that, the floors turned off. Everyone looked at each other, frowning. "What do they mean? Why are we being quarantined? We just woke up!" Farah shouted. Hella just shrugged. "Quarantine," Godden mumbled. "It seems the Rayans are more interested in keeping us contained today than forcing our labor," Skature added. "I wonder." He trailed off, looking at Hella again, this time without a wink. Hella went white. "What should we do, Godden?" Senna asked. "We wait, I suppose. What else can we do?" Godden gazed thoughtfully between Hella and Skature, then wandered over to a nearby bench and sat down to wait by himself. While Skature sauntered over to the table in the middle of the common, followed by Hella and Senna, Farah shifted from foot to foot, considering her options, then headed towards the table to sit with the others. Skature was the first one to speak up once the 4 had seated themselves. "I've seen some strange things in these calls in my day, but never a quarantine." "I have, once before. So has Godden," Farah said, looking at Hella as she spoke. "Oh, really?" Skature pressed for more. "And why, in that case, did they do it?" Farah looked over her shoulder at Godden, then straight at Skature. "I don't suppose it matters what Godden thinks about it anymore. With all the things he's been hiding from us himself. He made me swear not to tell Hella or Senna, but all the while he knew about the unvanquished flame and didn't say a thing until that brat nearly killed us in the understreet." She motioned towards Hella without looking at her. "Tell us about this other quarantine, and why Godden would keep it a secret from the other young ones, Miss Farah. For the record, I wanted to tell both of them for years since it happened. But no, I got to go suffer instead. How lucky for them." Hella spoke up. "Tell us what? What are you talking about, Farah?" Farah folded her arms and glared at the younger girl. "It's because the whole thing was your cursed father's fault, that selfish, cowardly rat." Hella's nostrils flared. Before she could even unpack what Farah had just said, her hand was in motion. She slapped Farah right in the mouth. Without missing a step, Farah reciprocated, and harder. Both girls stood up from their seats, and Skature stepped between the two of them. Whoa, now, calm down. Let's continue the story, and without the harsh words if you can manage it this time, Miss Farah." In the meantime, Godden had risen from his bench, but seeing Skature step in caused him to hesitate. He still felt somehow inferior to the man and subconsciously acquiesced to his presence, like a beta wolf to his alpha. Farah and Hella returned to their seats, scowling at each other. Then Farah resumed the conversation, shifting her attention back to Skature. Hella wouldn't even remember. She was too young, which is why Godden didn't want her to know. I mean, her own mum didn't even want to tell her, so she got to grow up without any knowledge of the... Farah bit her tongue. "That man." "Okay, so what did happen?" Skature urged. "I was 9, Hella was 2. Senna wasn't even a bump in his mama's belly," Farah said. They sent me out on blessing with him, just me and him. We were to work the grounds by the wall of one of the 500 grids. I can't remember which one, but at a certain point, he got ahead of me by a ways. The single pieceman on duty noticed it, but instead of walking over to him, he walked over to me. Farah's bottom lip started to quiver. Your dad noticed the pieceman walking towards me. I saw him. He kept moving further away from me. He knew what was about to happen. A single tear slipped from Farah's left eye. She dropped her head looking at the table as a quiver in her lip grew. Scatter's eyes now shone a dull red. He wasn't grinning anymore. The red surged and built to where Hella's own eyes started to glow in response. I was too young to stop him. No one was there to stop him. No other pieceman, no Rayans, not even another Thutan, because, well, that dog had his hands all over me. Your father disappeared. Now Skature interjected. What do you mean? He ran away? I don't even know, Farah admitted. He watched that pig grab me, and then the next moment, he was just gone. Skature straightened up, frowning. Hella and Senna were both chalk white. Farah murmured, I don't know how long it lasted. My mind went blank at some point. I wasn't really there. Then it was over. He looked around, couldn't find your father, and called for more support. He just left me there, alone, like he had finished a meal break and I was just the leftover rubbish. Farah, Hella whispered. Sniffing, Farah dashed away her tears. No one ever heard from your father again, Hella. We don't know if he got away or was caught and killed or still hiding somewhere in Ypol. But while they searched for him, they sent us back to the call and put us into quarantine. It lasted 3 days. Farah's admission was like a weight that hung her head low. I don't hate you, Hella, but I see him when I see you. Skature reached across the table and gathered both of her hands in his. Farah, no child of Grom should ever suffer such an indignity. Had I been there that day, it's the pieceman who they would have never found again. I promise you that. Farah looked up to meet his gaze. All at once, she saw him. She saw Skature as he was, his eyes crimson and fierce. She realized in that moment that he too wielded the flame of their holy matron and that he wasn't afraid to use it. In an instant, the rough, bitter, hardened exterior of her persona melted away. She had never felt safe for a single instant since that day 10 years ago. Not until that moment. She smiled the most sincere smile back at Skature, as if to say thank you without words. His eyes slowly dimmed and returned to normal. Skature looked over Farah's shoulder and saw Godden watching from the bench. He gently squeezed Farah's hands, then let them go, and stood up. If you'd excuse me, my dear, Skature said in his regular cheery tone, I'd like to confer with our call elder for a spell. Decide what to do about this quarantine situation. Do about it, Farah responded. What can we do besides wait? He grinned. Oh, my dear, we always have a choice. With that, he walked over to Godden. Farah, Senna said, we have some big secrets you should know too. What are you talking about, Senna? Farah demanded. Hella responded for him. He's right, but you've got to come to my chamber to see where it started. Then I'll fill you both in on the rest while Skature and Godden talk. The 3 young people stood up from their table, following Hella's lead. Meanwhile, Skature sat down beside Godden. Young Farah just filled me in on some very interesting history regarding our previous quarantine. Godden stiffened at first, then sighed heavily. Skature continued. I'm glad she has a better elder in you than that rat who left her to rot. But Godden, there's going to be another moment, soon, when she'll need your protection. You weren't able to protect her the first time, but I get the sense, given a second chance, you'd step up willingly. Am I wrong? I can't hold it against Farah for telling you, Skature. It really wasn't fair to ask her to keep it a secret. I know that, he began. I've been thinking about our discussion yesterday. Given your insistence that we're on the verge of another major event from this quarantine, and I'd like to know why you think that, but if we are, I would prefer to stand as a Thutan than die as a slave. Godden's eyes now began to burn red. I have many regrets in my life. With your help, Skature, I'd like to atone for them in whatever time I have left. A smile filled Skature's face. Godden, son of Grom, it would be my honor. But before I do, I will answer your first question. Yes, things are about to get nasty here in Call 19. The truth is, I'm a visitor to Ipoh. I wasn't born here like the rest of you. I belong to a proud and free tribe of Thutans who exist outside the walls of this Asperite cage. Some of my compatriots are here as well, infiltrating the calls to destroy them and free our captive brothers and sisters. Gordon let out an audible gasp. It was everything he could have dreamed of as a child, since the day of his sister's death. A chance to fight, a chance to be free. He glanced up at the optical nodes at the front of the call, double-checking they couldn't see his or Scatter's mouths from his position. Scatter continued. Last night, Hella and I escaped the call walls for a secret meeting with my team. Wait, Hella? You and Hella? Oh, yep, I couldn't stop her joining me, but I'm glad that she did. She is one of the strongest Thutan spirits I have ever met, and she's going to be an asset to our efforts, I have no doubt. Though here's the thing, Garden. Last night, our venture did not go unnoticed. We encountered several unlucky Rayan Knight peacemen. Encountered? Garden questioned, concerned about Scatter's choice of words. They're dead, Garden. Scatter's expression darkened. I would have preferred to keep our escapade a secret, but chance didn't allow for that. Dead? All of them? How many were there? Garden couldn't make sense of the information as it came in. Oh, Garden, you cold Thutans have such low expectations of what we can do. There were only 10 of them. I barely had to stretch. They had our dear Hella in their Asperite clutches, so I sent them back to their god for their hubris. Something I'd be happy to do as many times as I have Grom's blessing to this side of death. 10 Rayans? Garden marveled while also recognizing the enormity of what that implied when it came to the Rayans' response. I've heard of rumors that a Thutan warrior could take on 10 Rayans at once. I always thought it was just some historical embellishment. Oh, the old 10-to-1 ratio. Yeah, I've heard that parroted here and there among the calls. That number's more of an average than a limit, and Garden, you must understand, I am nowhere near average, Scatter boasted. But as remarkable as I may or may not be, I can't take on the combined force of Ipoh alone. And I have a feeling this little quarantine is meant for them to gather intel, then locate and exterminate any of the Thutans responsible for or connected to last night's events. I believe they're coming to purge us, Garden. What can I do to aid you, Scatter? Is there some way we can prepare? Scatter leaned in closer. There is. However, in the time we have, a day, maybe less, our options are few. There's going to be an enormous risk. Garden also leaned in closer, replying, I would be happy to have you lead me out of safety and into glory. Notes from the Acolyte. Optical nodes are a ubiquitous feature in every grid and call of Ipoh. They are especially vital in civilian grids where Thutans perform their blessings, serving as the eyes and ears of the Order of Peace and are only accessible to those of the cloth. Being routed through central arbitration by way of the obligate, they cast images and audio both to and from central arbitration. Certain engineers have been working to develop their capabilities even further, but those plans are only experimental at this point.